Terry and Miranda remained on the walkway while you and Cove returned to the car. When you were alone again, you spoke up. That was good. Yeah. He wasn't facing you, but you could still admire the happy curve of his lips. It was nice to visit with your friends for a little while, and it was even better to have another thing set for the big day. With a determined stare, Cove pulled his phone out and plugged Baxter's office into the GPS map. I wanted to tell not Baxter, Derek! Hopefully I'll be able to talk to Derek. That's what I'm waiting for. I want to talk to Derek. Once it was all set, he put the car in drive and you both were on your way once more. While Cove drove, you pulled your phone out and scrolled through your contacts list. Okay, I guess I'm gonna call Derek instead of seeing him in person. The rest of this task would have to be done long distance, so you turned the speaker up and made the call. Dialing up your big sister, you set the phone to speaker. You were already expecting the inevitable jokes she'd have up her non-sleeves. I guess even though Derek was my first choice, I should tell my sister first. I should. Even though she was my last choice. Hello, Hark. What do you need to inform me of? Hi to you too, Liz. Oh, hi, Cove. This is gonna be good. Liz's intrigued tone became teasing, realizing she was on speaker. I guess you can't even pretend to have a normal conversation first. No. You're planning a wedding. You have to have something in the works by now. You could tell by the way Cove quietly took a deep breath that he was conflicted. In your gut, you knew he wanted to admonish her and shake his head, but she wouldn't see that. It's always nice to talk to you, Liz. Fine, let's cut to the chase. She's right, Cove. I'm so glad my big sis is on the ball. You rolled your eyes. You laughed. I'm so glad my big sis is on the ball. So you do have wedding news to share? Oh, so you do have wedding news to share? And Cove and I were hoping that you'd be a groomswoman for me. I knew it. The only reason you both would be calling like this would be to ask something like that. Yeah, you're very clever for cracking the case. That's correct. It makes sense, and of course you'd request me to be involved with the wedding. Liz cracked up over the line. She needed some time to collect herself, but when she did, she spoke much more earnestly this time.
Thanks.
But that aside, honestly, I'd love to be your groomswoman. Thanks you so much for having me. No, thank you. This means a lot to me. Me too, little brother. I'm glad that you're going to be part of this too, Liz. It's natural that you would be. You've been there all along. For better and worse. Rude, but fair. I'm looking forward to it. Cool. We gotta go and do more wedding things. Talk to you later. Keep me updated. Bye. Bye, Liz. And with that, you would happily check off another box off your to-do list. That was another invitation sent and accepted. Taking a deep breath, you pulled up the contact for the next person on your mind. You hit the call button and waited. Eagerly, you waited for your cousin to pick up. Why are we... I guess we're saving the best for last. Even though Derek's the best man, we are saving the best for last. Makes sense. That's why he's the best man. Eagerly, you waited for your cousin to pick up. Cove noticed out of the corner of his eye that you positioned the phone a little further away than normal. He nodded in agreement with that decision. Hey, Hark, how's the wedding planning going? Any news? Here we go. Despite his amused tone, Cove still held the wheel more tightly, bracing for the volume of the coming conversation. Lee was clearly already excited for any potential scoop. Oh, was that Cove? Hi! Hi, Lee. She uncharacteristically remained silent after the greetings, waiting patiently for what this was about. Hey, Lee, can I ask you something? Mm-hmm. Will you be a groomswoman in my wedding party?
Really?
Ah! Chuckling, you both could feel Cove's affectionate gaze on your skin. It was easy for you both to imagine the way Lee must have been vibrating with wedding energy as she let her enthusiasm spill out loudly over the phone. Lee's cheering was exactly what she wanted to hear. Eventually, she called an end to her mini celebration when she was forced to pause to take a deep breath. I think it's safe to say that was a yes. Sounded like one too, to me too. Totally yes. I'm in. You know I am. Yes. I'm still just stunned about everything. My cousin is getting married. This is going to be so amazing. Thank you, Lee. We appreciate the support. That's what family is for. I'm always just a phone call away. Thanks, Lee. We have some more wedding-related things to do, so we'll pick this up again later. Works for me. Good luck with the wedding planning, and I expect a detailed report face-to-face soon. Of course. Bye, Lee. Bye, Hark. Bye. I'm still here. I've never forget you. Bye. Energized, you hung up already, waiting the next time you'd see Lee in person. Stretching your arms out, you pleasantly took in the world, rolling out by the window. Taking a deep breath, you pulled up the contact for the next person in your mind. You hit the call button and waited. Staring at Kyra's name, you hoped that she wasn't too busy. She luckily picked up only after a couple of rings. Hello, Hark, and hello, baby. Hi, Mom 3.
Huh?
Hi, Mom. How'd you know I was here?
Come on.
When are you ever far from Hark, especially with what's been happening lately? Yeah. How are my best kids doing? Good, really good. Hark and I actually have something that we wanted to ask you. Oh, I'm all ears. I was hoping that you'd be a groomswoman in my wedding party.
My
Oh, my heart! Yes, of course I'll be your groomswoman. You can count on me.
I'm so
Thanks,
glad.
Mom. Yeah, thank you so much. Hey, that's what I'm here for. We have to keep going with more planning, but we'll talk to you later, okay?
Makes sense.
Good luck, my babies, and take care. I'll see you both again soon. Thanks again. Bye. Bye, Mom. Cove was elated when you ended the call. One more successful invitation was checked off the to-do list. Taking a deep breath, you pulled up the contact for the next person on your mind. You hit the call button and waited. This is it. This has got to be Derek. You didn't have to... Hallelujah! Come to me, my best man! You didn't have to hover over Derek's name. You hit call without another thought. He picked up before the second ring.
What's up?
There he is! There's my best man! There he is! Hey, it's Derek. Yes, it is. How's it going? Hi, everything is great. Hey, Cove's there too. Talking to Derek always raised his spirits. You chuckled watching Cove's grin widen. Raised his spirits? You see how much I've been excited this whole time? Hey, too. And Cove's right. Things are good. Awesome. Did you both need to talk to me about something specific, or is this just for fun? I mean, with you, Derek, it's always for fun. It's always fun. Yeah, about that. Cove trailed off so that you could pick the conversation up. I wanted to ask you if you'd be my best man.
No
Huh?
way.
Your best man? You want me for that? Yeah, I know you can do it. There's no one else I'd want in this position. Come on, it'll be fun. Well, you've always been the most responsible one in our friend group. I hope that's alright. There's no one else I'd want in this position. Derek, in this position. You hoped that he could hear the sincerity in your voice because you meant it wholeheartedly. Out of all the possibilities to consider, this felt the most right. It would mean everything to me if you'd be my best man. There was a little silence on Derek's end, and you couldn't help but give Cove a look. But then there was a clear inhale, and you realized the stun of your question must have worn off. Heck yeah! Of course I'll do it. Absolutely.
Leave it to
If
me.
you want to rely on me for this, then I will be the greatest best man you'll ever have. That's all I want. That's all I really wanted from this wedding. That's all I really cared about in this wedding was for Derek to be my best man. I don't care about anything else. This is the only thing. That's the only thing. Oh yes, and having, marrying my husband too. There's that too. And that's a fact. Since it's not like you'll be getting married again, I'm the only best man. Well, maybe in another universe. Many in the other verse I'll be marrying again. In another Let's Play. Cove huffed a tiny laugh at that. Yeah, I hope this is the only time Hark will get married to somebody. Unless it's me again for a second wedding. This is technically our second wedding. Technically, Cove. You could hear Derek snickering again over the line. But he soon settled down. Your cheeks were starting to hurt for smiling too much. Seriously, congrats again, you two. It means a lot to me that I'll get to be there with you through this. Thanks for being there, Derek. We can't thank you enough, Derek. You were pretty sure that you had knocked him speechless. All you could hear over the line were some sniffles. Oh, Derek is such a softie. I love this boy. I love how much of a softie he is. You both felt fortunate to have such a good friend in Derek. Cove glanced at you with eyes full of affection before moving things along. So, that's what we were calling about, and now there's even more wedding planning to get to.
See
Well, I
you.
won't keep you. I'm glad you called. See you later. See you soon, Derek. See you soon. In position. Yeah, you will. Bye. Bye, Derek. Bye. Call me. Leaning back on your chair, you finally put your phone away and slid your attention towards Cove with an easy smile. The high excitement was fading and leaving a comfortable tiredness in his face, but you wouldn't trade the joy and support you got today for anything. Cove gave a little cheer over your mutual success.
Yeah.
We did it! We have wedding parties! Cove didn't take his focus off the road, but you could hear every bit of relief in his voice. The corner of his mouth curved. I mean, I guess it's not exactly surprising that things went fine, but it's hard to act casual about any of this. I know how you feel. It matters as much to me too. I can't believe it's happening. It's okay to lighten up, you know. Well, you wouldn't be Cove if you weren't panicking just a little. You put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. I'll put a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Cove stole a quick glance at you sweetly. You didn't have to say a single word because you both knew how much you shared his sentiment. That was a big and exciting deal, and you couldn't be happier to have Cove share this with. The tension in his body slipped away under your touch.
All right.
Okay, let's hurry to Baxter's office. There's a whole rest of a wedding to plan for. Right. A new day and another visit to your new wedding planner came down the rushing river that was your life at this time. You, Cove, and Baxter were each settled into the same spots at the appointments prior, but there wasn't any of the initial shock. Instead, things started off with a simple greeting. Hey, we have a wedding party now. Everyone we wanted accepted. Oh, you work faster than I do. Wonderful. I'll check it off and we can move fully forward. I hope you're excited. I couldn't be more. You gave a firm nod. You could take it or leave it. You teased. Yes. All you did was shrug. You bet your butt. Yes. Cove stuttering giggled over the conversation. Me too. Well, he pulled out his pen while crossing his legs in a fluid motion. Our company has its own in-house photographer for your event, so that's taken care of. But there's the meal catering, cake, and any other dessert you want. I want cake. Of course you do. I want cake too. Baxter coyly grinned at the abrupt interruption, unbothered. I'm sure you'll get your treat then. Along with those are the outfits for you both. And you'll naturally need to decide where the ceremony and reception will be held. If you're feeling unprepared to make a call on any of that now, we could always start with the dance lessons. What are you feeling? Knowing where the wedding is going to be is pretty important to get done, but on the other hand, it's such a big thing, it's kind of intimidating to think about. Cove tilted his head back and forth, mentally working through his opinion on the matter. Baxter watched the struggle for a moment before bringing it back up. Hark, any thoughts for your husband? We should decide the venues now. It shouldn't be put off longer. How about we pick a caterer? Let's design a cake, Cove. Could we go clothing shopping? It would be nice to begin the dance sessions. I mean, the venue is something you need to lock in as early as possible. Because once you figure out the venue, it's way easier to plan everything else. Because you know the size, you know what it looks like, you know what you could do. Like, the venue is the thing you need to lock down as early as possible. So I would 100% endorse starting with that before anything else. Because everything else can follow after. Yeah, we could decide the venues now. It shouldn't be put off longer.
Yeah.
Baxter rubbed his hands together and grinned at you.
Absolutely.
All right, now we're getting serious. Cove gulped, his Adam's apple briefly retreating up to his chin as if afraid, but he nodded in assent.
All right.
Hark is right, we should decide this. His eyes met yours as he bobbed his head again. Let's do it. You sat up straight, your back tearing away from the comfort of the sofa's cushioning, as you readied yourself such a critical discussion in your wedding preparation. Here we go. Good. There are stunning buildings in the area which used to be private locations, but have since opened up specifically for wedding ceremonies for any couple who'd like to make use of them. Naturally, there are also plenty of commercial locations which can easily host a full-sized after-party for your reception. His mouth twitched into a sly smile. Or, if you prefer something outdoors, there's always the beach. He chuckled, fully aware of what an obvious suggestion that was for his current clients. You could go for a spot that can host both parts of the wedding, so it's entirely in one location, but there's no harm in making a little trip from the ceremony to the reception afterwards either. It's entirely up to you. So, speaking for me personally, I definitely appreciate an outdoor wedding, but I would be stressing out so much if the weather wasn't exactly... I'd be so stressed out that it would rain that day. That for me, it's not worth the stress. So that's why I prefer not having an outdoor wedding if it were up to me. As for my husband, he 100% wants an indoor wedding. in particular, if it was taking place over the summer, which ours did, because ours took place in the middle of July, which, for those of you who are not aware, is where we live, at least, gets really hot. And my husband is very sensitive to temperature, and he wants his air conditioning. He wants his air conditioning. So we've been to other weddings outdoors in the swelteringly hot summer days. And Colin, this is before we got married, he turned to me and was like, we are not having an outdoor wedding. And I was like, I'm cool with that. We can have ours totally indoors. Again, I've been to many, many outdoor weddings that were gorgeous and beautiful, and the weather was wonderful. But as appealing as a beach wedding sounds, as somebody who doesn't really care much for the water, sorry, Cove, I know that's your thing, and you do you, boo. But that's one thing that Cove and I do not share. We do not share the same interest. We do not share the same interest in the beach. I like going to the beach, but it's not necessarily my go-to. If I was gonna think of something to do for fun, going to the beach is not really my go-to. But for Cove, I know it is. It's entirely up to you. He held up a hand, stopping himself mid-flow, but continued to smile wryly. But I don't wish to get carried away in a preamble. Where would you like us to start? He leaned in, not planning on missing a one word, the hand which he'd held in the air now propping up his chin. Can we figure out where the ceremony will be held first? Can we talk more about the reception options? It doesn't matter to me. I want to know what Cove would prefer. You glanced over to Cove, curious to see what he was thinking. I want to know what Cove would prefer. Oh, then if nobody cares, I'd like to talk about the location for the ceremony. Cove bit his lip as he weaved his fingers together on his lap. When he spoke again, his voice was soft and sweet, but just a little sheepish. That's the one I'm most excited about. Gladly. He's excited about the ceremony. I'm excited about the reception. But yes, both are important, obviously. He relaxed back into his rolling chair and then took out a phone with one hand while extracting his pen with the other. I've got photos of the places I mentioned to let you actually get a feel for the scene. Baxter tapped away at his screen, pulling up the previews of potential ceremony locations for your wedding. While he was partially preoccupied with that, he rattled off the specific kinds of locations you could use. So, there's a few spots I'd like to show you. There's a mansion that was formerly privately owned, as well as a church, mosque, or synagogue in the same vein. There's the beach, as always, or perhaps a different outdoor spot. Cove's eyes darted over to Baxter, and back to you as he spoke up tentatively. So we're allowed to mention our own ideas for places? Baxter nodded amiably. It's our wedding, sweetheart. It's our wedding, honey. Of course. 100%. Certainly. What did you have in mind? Well... He was looking down at his shoes as he spoke. Taking a deep breath, he glanced over at you. There's the Poppy Hill. You grinned sheepishly as you rubbed the back of your neck, with its starring role in your shared memory. It made sense. Cove, still flustered, returned your awkward grin. He was clearly pleased to see that you'd been happy with the suggestion. He turned back to Baxter. That's, where we first met. That's sweet. He tilted his head away and closed his eyes. I remember seeing it when I was there. Cove's gaze was fixed on Baxter with rapt attention, awaiting his verdict. It's rather small and round. Cove deflated, his shoulders sagging. Baxter opened his eyes again and continued. If you don't mind your guests having to stand, there's just no room for chairs. We could still set up a simple ceremony there. Cove chuckled as he straightened up in his seat. It could be worse. The confidence had been restored to him. Having Baxter take his suggestion seriously and even offer ways to accommodate it had helped put Cove at ease. Then he checked over to you. We don't have to do it there, though. If it's poppies you want, there is another option. I know of a bigger, flatter field of those flowers in the Sunset Bird area. It would be spacious enough to have a full setup there. Cove tilted his head as he peered out at the phone, genuinely intrigued by the news of another source of his favorite flower. Oh, that's cool. It did sound like it might be quite a stunning location. You began considering the possibility. Good to hear. Then Cove jolted in his seat, his head snapping up as another idea came to him. Are people allowed to have weddings or whatever in redwood forests? Oh, the redwood forests. Even though it's kind of further away, that's an amazing place to be in. He drew his feet in close to the sofa as he looked down, growing shy. We've made some special memories there. Baxter nodded surely. It's an option for certain spots. We could get it set up if you want. Cove grinned, delighted. Baxter spread his hands wide, holding the pen and his phone with his fingers so that you could see the palms of each hand. Those are the ideas, it sounds like. Tell me, what's standing out most for you? The beach, the poppy hill behind my house, the poppy field outside of town, the historical mansion, the historical synagogue, the historical mosque, the historical church, the redwood forest. Actually, I already know the one I'd want. So, if it were up to me, I would love to have been married in a church, because I am a religious person. And I don't get to role play as much as a religious person in RPGs. So whenever I do see an option to role play as a religious person, I gravitate towards that because it's just not something that I am able to do most of the time. That being said, even though I did say that I preferred an indoor wedding, I really like Cove's ideas, and I also don't want this to just be everything that I want in my wedding, which is why for the things that it doesn't matter as much to me and I would prefer Cove pick things out, I want to honor his ideas, because at the end of the day, I don't really care that much where we have the ceremony. And I told my husband that, which is why we ended up having our ceremony in his neck of the woods near his alma mater in college. And I was 100% for that. I like the idea of having the wedding at the Poppy Hill behind our house, because, yeah, there is significance there in terms of that's where we met, and it would be really romantic. But I kind of like my weddings to be a little bit outside of my local neighborhood, if I could pick. Like, it's a special day. I want to do something like that isn't. I wouldn't want something that's too close to home. You know, I'm not saying that I want people to have to fly to my wedding if they were, you know, in town, in my hometown. I don't want people to necessarily fly to the wedding, but it would be nice to have a little bit of a drive, which is what we did for my wedding. Our wedding was like a 3-hour or 4-hour, I think like a 3 or 4 hour drive away, probably more closer to 3 hours. And that's perfect, you know, because it's not like, I don't know, it is significant, but I'm like, just outside of my house. I like the idea of going to the redwood forest is very appealing to me, because it just feels, I don't know, like we actually get to go out and go somewhere that maybe a lot of the people from my hometown have never been to before, you know? It would be an exciting, like, location wedding, in my opinion. So let's do, I want to do at Cove. I'll pick this one, because Cove did suggest it, the redwood forest. Baxter swept through his sources and shows a clearing in the redwood forest that was used for events like yours. You know those towering trees well, and you'd heard that they were some of the oldest living trees in the entire world. A lot of history would have happened under those boughs, and your ceremony would be another addition to that long list.
It's nice.
Those are the best kind of trees in the world, I think. The trips you took there are always great, too. Though if we did have it here, Elizabeth would definitely crack jokes about how she totally called us getting married over a decade ago. She totally would. Good, we could thank her for a wonderful idea. She was only kidding back then, so it doesn't count. I can't believe how long we have to put up with this. You've grown to cast through the years of suffering. You blushed and stayed quiet. Definitely crack about how she totally called us getting married there in a couple goes. She totally would. You could already picture her big, smug face. Cove's eyes sparkled with curiosity as he watched you, wondering how you'd felt about it. Let's talk about another one. I want to talk about, just because this would have been my choice, I want to know a little bit about the historical church. The historical church. Oh, wow. That looks gorgeous. It reminds me a lot of the churches that I would go to when I was a kid. Baxter tapped at his phone for a minute before presenting the screen now, displaying the church's interior to you and Cove. Wow, it's beautiful. Cove stared at the picture intently, nodding slightly. I can see why it's a place for weddings. It is beautiful. He checked your reaction to see if it met with your approval. Yeah, it does look gorgeous. And again, if it was only up to me, that's the one I would pick, because, oh my, it looks perfect. Perfectly gorgeous. But there is a lot more significance to the Redwood Forest. And again, I want to do something that Cove suggests and Cove wants to do. So I probably will still go with the Redwood Forest. What's really, like, I think one critique I have for this game, and this is a super nitpicky critique, because the game has been so great otherwise about having the freedom to shape your character however you want. There has been a sheer lack of religious or spiritual options in this game. Again, I get to roleplay as a religious character so rarely, and I understand why. It's hard to do religion in a role-playing game. And there's so many different religions. There's tons of religions that I don't expect a video game to cater to that aspect necessarily, because it would just be, if they're trying to be representative of as many religions as possible, from Jewish to Christianity to, you know, Wiccism, even Scientology, I mean, everything and anything, Mormonism, everything under the sun, it would just be nigh impossible, or, like, you would be spending a lot of resources and content that, if I'm being perfectly honest, probably a large chunk of your audience, a large chunk of your player base would probably not be that interested in. Because I get that is, it's a niche, I get that that's a niche interest. I'm sure there are a lot of people who would appreciate some religious representation, or spiritual representation, but I get that that can be super hard. Because, you know, and even if I wasn't, like, even if that offer was sent, I wouldn't necessarily even pick, like, the Christian option. I may want to roleplay a character who was Hindu. I may want to roleplay a character who was Muslim, you know? I think those would be really, really cool. But, I mean, it's just a lot of religions, a lot of different traditions, a lot of, you know, there's just a lot of things. It would be very difficult to pull off with a game that is already this sheer, the size of this game is already huge, the sheer size of this is already huge, that in of itself would just be a major, maybe even, I mean, it could be a DLC, but again, you're spending a lot of time and resources on content that, if I have to admit, may not be something that majority of the players would really be all that interested in. So anyway, but that's just a personal critique for myself that I would have loved. Because if I was able to have some moments, if there were some moments where I was in church, or, you know, if there were some choices where I could even say I said grace before I had my lunch, or I prayed, that would have been amazing, and I would have felt more like this is me, this is my character in this game. 100% get why that's not included in virtually all RPGs. But if we're talking about trying to add more representation and more diversity into video games, race is of course the easier thing to do representation. LGBTQ plus characters is another, like, way that is easier to put representation wise. Religion is just one of those things that I get is hard, but it'd be amazing if more games and more RPG games in general at least attempted to provide that type of representation, because people like myself would love that. You know, you could argue, well, that's going to cater to a minority of people. The LGBTQ plus content would probably cater to a minority of people, and yet a lot of games are embracing adding LGBTQ content into their games. So if you're willing to, you know, cater to that minority group, what about the religious minority groups? Just a thought. Let's talk about another.